One drop, one drop, one drop. That makes up the ocean. My mother always used to say that to me, and she borrowed it from Mother Teresa. One drop, one drop, one drop. That makes up the ocean. As we kick off the 91st year of Millbrook's existence, we focus on the core value of service. When we think about service, we're often tempted to gravitate towards those things that are as big as the ocean. Bradley Cooper and Brad Pitt cutting a ribbon for a zillion-acre preserve. An orphanage opening in a faraway land to save thousands and thousands of children's lives. A 13-year-old beginning a nonprofit, a 501c3, that will cure climate change. All of that dreaming big, aspiring for massive reform, elimination of poverty and starvation, and living in a world, as Dr. King reminds us, where men and women are not judged by their gender or the color of their skin, but by the content of their character. Whatever the dream, as big as the ocean it may be, that dream is noble and it's worthy. Never, never, never allow anyone to stop you from dreaming big or achieving something with massive paradigm-altering impact. Dream big. And yet this evening, I want to suggest an idea to the contrary. Dream small too. Look right in front of your nose, down to your toes, to the person on your left, the person on your right, those in front of you, those behind you. Dream in droplets. One drop, one drop, one drop. That makes up the ocean. I want to consider with you 3 ways to think about our core value of service. Customer service, quiet generosity, and heroic humility. The former head of trading at J.P. Morgan Bank once said to me that he preferred to hire people who had worked in the service industry, specifically restaurants and hotels. He said it was because those industries taught individuals how to be empathetic, to consider the immediate experience of others. In essence, he would say that a customer service state of mind pushes us to new heights of empathy. And as a result, we create environments of inclusivity and belonging, which strengthen the spirit of a team. Curious, faculty too, how many of you have worked in some kind of service industry? Restaurants, a club, a pool, hotel, babysitting, students. I know many of you have. Raise your hand. I love that. I'm biased. I grew up in a bar and a restaurant. It was my family's business for 20 years of my life. If you haven't ever served as a job, make it a goal before you're 25. Miss Baker teaches math here and also works in a family restaurant over the summer. I asked her what lessons of life she's learned through her service in the restaurant, and she shared the following with me. Listen up, because these are 2 powerful pieces of advice. Miss Baker said, apologies and thank yous, they're free. We can apologize for the long wait, the lack of staffing, the weather, whatever. We can say thank you for someone's patience, their kindness, understanding, patronage. Those apologies and expressions of appreciation, they don't cost a penny. Miss Baker also learned that being right isn't helpful when we think about customer service. Even if one's opinion of how long a wait may have been, or how overcooked or undercooked the food was, even if it's wrong, acknowledging one's frustration and expressing an attempt to find a solution will build bridges of compromise for so many discrepancies and disagreements. One drop. While customer service is often deliberate and visible, I also urge us to think of acts of kindness that are sometimes invisible. Let's call this quiet generosity. 2 years ago, Emma Levy moved into guest house, and she was in a triple and arrived 2 hours before her roommates. Some of you know what she did. Emma waited for 2 hours until both of her roommates arrived so that they could pick and choose which bed, dressers, and desks they wanted. Wow. What a way to spark the chemistry of a room through quiet generosity. It's no wonder she's a dorm leader now. Just 2 days ago, I walked into the second floor of Case where a burst pipe was cascading water into Nick Chen's room. Zhao Hong Wen, our Mandarin teacher and international student advisor, was in Nick's room with an industrial vacuum, a mop, and a bucket, taking on the Class 5 rapids all on her own. Miss Wen was not on duty. She had classes to prepare for and 2 children to ready for their school. And she was going above and beyond her job description. Instead of running from a responsibility that was not her own, she accepted the challenge of becoming part of a solution. One drop. Mr. Tom introduced me to the term heroic humility, which is the acceptance of help as a way of validating our own existence. We can ask, how can I help, or how can we help? Which was the brilliant focus of Fall Welcome. But if the recipients of that question are unwilling to receive the help, then it all falls apart. We must be as willing to receive as we are willing to give. After all, the bedrock of a community like Millbrook is our interdependence. Why live in a community like this if we're not going to accept the benefits that come with it? While it may seem like a frivolous example, think back to the skit from Fall Welcome when Mr. Botchway fought to open a pickle jar. The help the student leaders wanted to provide would have been useless if Mr. Botchway was unwilling to accept the help. He could have easily said, "Go away, I've got this," which would stop the scene and eliminate the bridge of interdependence and the strength of a community. Recently, we have seen another kind of heroic humility with some of the most elite athletes in the world. Michael Phelps, Simone Biles, Naomi Osaka come to mind. They've all been the absolute best on the planet at what they do. And all 3 have led with heroic humility, choosing not to sweep their personal struggles under the rug, but rather to say, I need help and I will accept help. And I have to imagine that the strength of their personalities, willpower, and ego aided in the titles and accomplishments of all of these athletes, and yet all 3 have also publicly let their egos go in an effort to offer the world lessons in heroic humility. One drop. As we launch into this academic year and focus on service, I encourage each and every one of us to dream in droplets. Service has many shapes and styles. Customer service, quiet generosity, heroic humility. However you want to slice it, I look forward to focusing on the core value of service with you this year. And if you remember anything that I say from this convocation, remember this. Service cannot exist unless you are taking care of yourself physically, mentally, spiritually, and emotionally. Millbrook's motto and many of our mantras do not work without self-care. Non sibi sed cunctis, not just for oneself, but for all. The simultaneous pursuit of the best self in the common good. Leave it, whoever, wherever, whatever it is, better than you found it. These are things we say a lot at Millbrook. And they all break down if you don't take care of yourself. You cannot care for all unless you care for yourself. You cannot tend to the common good unless you commit to your best self. And it will never be better than we found it unless we are stable and healthy enough to care for the cultivation of it. Service begins within each of us. Our own self-care is the pathway to the common good. One drop, one drop, one drop. That makes up the ocean. Let's have a great school year.